I'll wait till we go live then to.
And I'm about to go live on Facebook. I'm going to take myself off screen, but
Okay.
we should be live. Not yet. Let me take myself off screen.
So Monica, I'll go ahead and start.
Not yet, Kathy.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay, you can start.
Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to kind of another edition of MCAEL Connects, where MCAEL is talking with a lot of wonderful people who we work with in the county, in Montgomery County, and just showcasing where our work intersects and showcasing some of the great services and offerings that other organizations, county agencies, nonprofits, businesses have, and how we all connect together around the subject of adult English and ESOL classes. So again, I'm Kathy Stevens, Executive Director for MCAEL, and I am here today with Anita Vassallo. Vassallo?
No, Vassallo.
Vassallo, right. Okay. That's the moment where you wish you had practiced it ahead of time, who is the director of the Montgomery County Public Libraries. And just administratively, the libraries is very important to MCAEL because our contract with the county runs through you all. But more importantly is all the substantive work that we do together. And Anita, thanks so much for taking a little bit of time today to talk with us and showcase a little bit about what the libraries have to offer. And let's just start with, how's everybody doing at the libraries? Everyone's, I'm sure, busy with services being delivered in a different way, but just start there for us.
Yeah, so first of all, hi everyone. I'm really very pleased to have the opportunity to speak with Kathy and to let everyone who's watching know about what libraries are doing right now, almost 1 year into our changed operating mode because of the COVID-19 pandemic, of course. So I'll give everyone a little rundown on how we pivoted to our current operation. On March 16th of 2020, we closed the doors to our physical buildings as directed by the county executive, Mr. Elrich. And at that point in time, on March 16th, we had never done any type of virtual programming at all. On March 23rd, 1 week later, we offered our very first virtual program on the Zoom platform, which was a story time. And since then, 11 months later, we have expanded our offerings to really mirror many of the types of things that we were doing prior to having to close the physical buildings that we were doing in person to now doing them on Zoom in a virtual way. So those would include a wide range of programs for children and parents focused on early literacy, a lot of things that are just fun, like dance parties. We have a Friday night dance party that is, it's on family calendars weeks in advance. We have our book discussion groups. We have author talks. We're doing a lot of author talks recently. Other different types of programs, discussions of the history of Montgomery County and of Maryland. Our conversation clubs, which have always been a very important part of our outreach to English language learners, they are still taking place in the virtual platform through Zoom. And just a whole raft of other things: yoga, tai chi, Dungeons and Dragons, board game night. So there's something for everyone. If you
Yes.
take a look at the library's website, which is www.montgomerycountymd.gov/library, or of course just put Montgomery County Public Libraries into Google, and if they direct you to one in Tennessee, that is not us. We are in Maryland.
Right.
So that's kind of our programming focus right now. The other thing that we did was shift part of our collection budget from our print resources into digital. So we launched a streaming service called Hoopla early on in the pandemic period. That was something that we'd already decided to pick up, but we moved it up a little bit. Another online course platform called Udemy that has a lot of self-improvement class types of things on it. And we've continued to work on getting other offerings up that are available online streaming or downloadable, as well as all of the traditional things that we have. Then later on, into the summer actually, but once we were able to bring our staff back to our buildings, we launched our Holds to Go service, and that began on July 6th. And that allows anyone to go to the library's catalog and put materials on hold. And then when they come in, you're notified and you can make an appointment again through the website to come by and pick them up. So that's the bare bones of that service, but it's really so much more, because anyone can call their local library and speak with the staff member there and say, listen, I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old here at home, and my 3-year-old is really into dinosaurs. The 7-year-old loves mermaid stories. And so can you just go and pick some things out for me? I don't know what to look for in the catalog. And we are more than happy to do that. So we'll put together a selection for your family. It'll be available at the Holds to Go table. If you're not sure how to navigate the Holds to Go appointment process, again, call your local library and we will help you out with that. So that's how that service goes. And then you might be thinking, well, that all sounds good, but I don't have a library card. What am I supposed to do? So you can get a digital library card. It takes just a few minutes, and it allows you to access the same services as you would if you had a physical library card from prior to having to shut down for the pandemic. So everything is, of course, available to anyone who lives, works, or goes to school in Montgomery County or any other county in the state of Maryland, plus DC and Northern Virginia, Alexandria, Arlington, and Fairfax counties. So that's a pretty wide range. We feel like anybody who is around us can certainly take advantage of Montgomery County Public Libraries. So I have some other things I'll touch on, but I'll let Kathy talk for the moment.
I mean, there's so much to react to there, because there's obviously so much going on. I didn't know about the dance parties. Feel like I should check that out. I am a big user of Holds to Go, and that's been very convenient. My branch is the Silver Spring branch, so it's easy for me to walk up and pick up. And it just occurs to me as we're talking about the collections, I think that's fabulous that, if a parent doesn't know quite what to get for their kids, they can call a librarian and get some help. How might we see that playing out with any of MCAEL instructors or learners? Language might be a barrier to call or to go on and figure out what's in the ESOL collection. Do you have any suggestions around how we might share this information with our network about ways that people who are not native English speakers who may be wanting to access some ESOL materials, how we might best direct them to make best use of the services?
Yes, of course. So we do have staff language certified if they happen to be in the building when a customer calls. We also make use of the language line that I'm sure you're familiar with, Kathy, where we can dial into a service that will translate in a wide number of languages. It's a little bit of a back and forth, but we can help our customers out that way. We do carry materials in some of the world languages. And you can, by looking at our web page, you can find out which branches have which languages on site, but things can always be transferred from one branch to another. And, if there isn't a language certified Spanish speaking librarian or Chinese or Amharic available on site, we will make it work. We can make an appointment for you to speak with somebody if you need that extra assistance.
Mhm.
We do understand that navigating a website and doing everything virtually is not always the best way for some of our residents. And so we can talk about that a little bit later when we talk about what we're doing in order to provide those services.
Yeah.
So there was one more thing I certainly wanted to mention, which is a big deal for us and really for our community. Montgomery County Public Libraries on February 1st announced that we will no longer be charging overdue fines for materials that don't get back quite on the due date. We know that overdue fines can be a barrier to wanting to use the library. And someone has asked me, where the data is on that. And there definitely have been studies, one most prominently by the State Library of Colorado. But I also know it from over 40 years of experience working in public libraries.
Sure.
So all of us who have worked at a desk have seen a family come in, pick up materials to check out, come up to the desk, and only to be told that they owe $10, $15 or more. And almost inevitably, the parent turns to the children and says, we're not going to come anymore. I can't afford this. I can't be paying your library fines. And so we lose an entire family. We lose those children for we don't know how long. And library fines just put a barrier in front of people who are least able to overcome the fines. We don't want someone to have to make a choice between coming to the library, taking materials out, and purchasing food.
I must have missed that announcement. I'm embarrassed.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how I did, only because I have 9 million other pieces of information coming at me. But Anita, that sounds like a fabulous policy. And as Monica just pointed out to me in the chat, really rooted in equity and social equity.
Absolutely.
To make sure that people can access what they can without any, this is a classic barrier, a classic system-wide thing that we've had in place for decades that is a disincentive and a barrier. So
Yes.
That is really nice for us to hear, and something that we should, if I'm embarrassed that I didn't hear about it, but it's something that we should share out in our network.
Sure.
So that people know.
Well, I can forward the press release to you. That came out in February, so you have the information. The other thing to understand is it doesn't mean you can take the materials and never bring them back. We still expect folks to borrow things and bring them back. The library and its collection is a shared resource for all of our residents. And if you don't bring the things back for several months, we do send you a little reminder, and you can't use your library card until you return them to us, but there is no penalty.
Yeah.
There's no penalty for bringing things back. So, if anyone who's watching today has been embarrassed to come back to the library, because that's another factor.
Yes.
Even if you are willing and able to pay the fine to be, in a public area and informed that you owe money for something.
Right.
It's an unpleasant experience. It's not something that we want people to have to go through. And, all of the tropes and memes of librarians shaking their fingers and Mr. Bookman on the Seinfeld show, the library cop. And we just want to set all that aside. So, everyone is welcome back. In addition to no longer charging overdue fines going forward, we wiped all of the old library fines. So, if you are thinking that when you were back in high school or whatever, that copy of Moby Dick that you didn't return now you think you owe, you know, $350. It's not the case at all. And really, Montgomery County joins over 285 major library systems across North America, the US, and Canada in putting this policy into place. So it's a big announcement for us. And
yes,
library fines are a difficult thing to explain to people who, for whom English is not their native language, and they're new to the country. They're new to the idea of a public library. So all the better.
Well, that's so glad that we've learned that, and thank you for doing that. And I'll be interested to hear as this goes out, you know, 6 months, a year, what data you're able to collect on increased use, and then obviously everything's different right now with the state we're in, but kudos to you and your team and the county for doing that. I think that's great.
Thank you. And it was a recommendation from my library board. I have a library board, which is 12 community members assigned to a board to help advise the libraries. And so they worked very hard on putting together the recommendation that we passed over to the Chief Administrative Officer for the county, Rich Madaleno, and also to the county executive, of course, Mark Elrich. And as we know, at least as Montgomery County department directors, and I'm sure Kathy does too, equity is one of Mr. Elrich's prime considerations in the operation of county government and support for all of the residents.
Well, and it's even without the protests and everything that the country went through this summer, it's certainly something that's been on MCAEL's mind, and it's work that we have incorporated into our work, ongoing work over the years. And certainly we're raising it to a different level. And we have recently been through about a year-long strategic planning process. So we have a race equity strategic plan now to inform our work. And, you know, as we were talking, and one of the things we've been thinking about since we've been in this kind of pandemic state and everything going virtual is we are certainly aware that there's still many families, many households that don't have reliable, affordable internet access or reliable and affordable laptops, Chromebooks, whatever the case may be. They're making do with phone access, but with so much, whether it's a telemed appointment, whether it's a school, MCPS school, whether it's a job interview, work, all that, it still is something that we are working on. And so I'm sure that's something that the libraries is thinking about too. Not everyone can reach all these great streaming services. Have you done any data collection on that, or is there any wisdom you can share? We're in the midst of doing our own, so I understand it's an ongoing process.
There are a couple things there. So public libraries, as part of really our mission and our ethical background, we do not collect a lot of information on people who use our services. It's just the way that we operate. We are free and open to all. We do know, you know, we are able to, there are maps that show, you know, where the digital divide is extant. And we know areas, of course, of the county where the economic levels are challenging. And so folks may find it difficult to even subscribe to something like the Comcast Basics, which is that $10 a month service. But we did establish in December a program where we're lending 250 wireless hotspots.
I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah. So these are hotspots from Verizon. They have the Verizon data plan. We have 250, and they go out on someone's library card for 2 weeks. And everyone in the family can log in and get your wireless access that way. You know, the school system did such a great job in distributing Chromebooks out to all of its students. So many families in the county do have access to at least that device. But the wireless hotspot is, it just allows everyone in the family, whether they have a tablet or a smartphone, to have the broadband wireless, not to try to be, you know, doing research or interacting with other folks on a cell phone data plan. And then, as you said, Kathy, we know that access to computers is very critical for many of our community residents. I did want to mention that in partnership with the Department of Technology Services, through some funding from the CARES Act, libraries installed at 10 of our branches in areas where we felt this was really a need, an enhanced outdoor wireless. It hasn't been such a great thing for the past month or so because it's snowing and cold, but you can access the wireless, for example, at the Davis Library in the area around the building, Silver Spring, Aspen Hills. So it's a lot easier if you're near a library building to access the free wireless. Again, we don't track who's logged in or what people are doing on it. So it's free and open access, and we're really pleased that we were able to do that with the Department of Technology Services.
And I've seen people outside the Silver Spring Library sitting and obviously working, and I'm assuming they're using your wireless. So
yes,
I'm really important.
I'm sure they are. You know, we don't have great spaces for people to, you know, unfortunately sit and be, but we're looking at ways that we can, you know, try and put some seating, some socially distanced seating outside so that folks can, when the weather's better,
right.
And as it is sunny, kind of warm today. So,
yes.
You know, hopefully the end is in sight for that.
Right.
But as we look towards reopening the libraries, which is something that I'm sure people who are watching are interested in, one of the first services that we do want to be able to provide in some way is access to the public computers. So people can get back in there and be able to apply for jobs, you know, work on their schoolwork, or just connect with family in other areas of the country. I mean, I really feel that just allowing people to have that connection is really important. And then we are, a couple of other things are coming up that I don't want to talk about right now because I'm not sure quite when they're going to get underway. But we also know, of course, that people need printing and copying services. Very unfortunately, when libraries had to close, there really is not anywhere else that was able to pick up that particular service, the free access to a public computer, the ready access to printing from a computer. So that's kind of prime in our considerations as we talk about how things will look once we are able to welcome people back into our buildings.
Yeah, good. That makes perfect sense. And it's just amazing to think of all the resources that libraries can and do offer, and even in times where you can't physically get into the building. So I just, I really want people to know, and if there's something they're thinking that they want to find out about, go to the website, call a librarian, even if they don't speak the language line is there to help and that kind of thing.
Yes, definitely.
I did just want to touch on quickly, and then we'll wrap up. Obviously, we're always so pleased to hear, and you mentioned this, how well the online Zoom ESOL classes are going. And we know from time to time we welcome many of those group facilitators into our trainings, and I'm sure they go to our website to access information. Is there anything that you have noted over the years that's that you think, gosh, that would be a really good idea if we were to partner with MCAEL on this, what would we do? Or any things that you would see a need for coming down the pike that we could be a good partner on?
Yeah, well, Kathy, I think that, you know, what you can let us know in terms of materials that we should be looking at to purchase, because not only do we provide materials for the learners, we try also to provide materials that will assist the instructors or the conversation club leaders. So, you know, maybe a new philosophy in teaching or something new in terms of adult language acquisition for older adults would be things that you could help us look for so that we would be able to provide those in our branches.
We certainly can. I was just going to say, Anita, we can do that, and we can certainly ask instructors and program managers, you know, what would they need, and collect and collate that information for you all. That is certainly key part of our role.
I think that's really important. I had asked before as I was preparing for our visit, our senior librarian, Kelly Cooper, who manages our collection management division, that's the part of the library system that purchases all the materials. You know, what she thought would be important for me to note during this conversation. And she did mention that, you know, the partnerships are very important to help inform what we're looking at and what we're purchasing. With over 100 languages spoken throughout the county, of course, we're not able to purchase in everyone's native language. We kind of have to target the ones that are larger in the county. And it can be very challenging for us to find appropriate materials that are written and published in other countries. You know, you don't necessarily, if you're coming here from Mexico, you don't necessarily want to read, you know, John Grisham in Spanish. You want to read something written by an author from your own country.
Mhm.
And it can be a little hard to find the wide range of things that we would want to. But we are continuing to add titles in these different languages. The other thing that I think Kelly wanted to mention was that in terms of language acquisition, getting an audiobook, you know, along with the physical book, so that you can listen and follow along. And of course, we have them at all levels for younger people and with more, you know, basic English, because these are for children. They're packaged with the audio and the book together. We offer many titles online for download, and of course, many CD books. And you can arrange to borrow the CD book and borrow the physical book at the same time, so you can kind of follow along that way. And then
That's a great tool.
yeah, and most, you know, our streaming services have captioning, so that can be a help too. I guess there're just a lot of different ways, you know, that people can help themselves.
Absolutely.
And I don't remember, but I'll mention it again. Of course, we have Rosetta Stone as a service, also Mango Languages. So those are our two main language learning platforms. They're a little bit different, but they're both very accessible. And then we have Muzzy, M-U-Z-Z-Y, which is the language learning platform for children.
Right.
And all of these have an English language learning component to them. So
Yeah.
a lot out there. And again, to reiterate, it's all free. All of it is free.
Which is, you know, what you're here for, is to make sure that people have access to services like that. And it's really fantastic. So
Yes.
we're almost out of time, but just one last question. As you look to the future, we are going to be at some point doing more things in person. I assume that will just, you'll rest the library's reopening based on county health data, what we know from the county health services and the state, of course. Is there anything else you would want people to know just about reopening type plans, or no plans at this point, but what to expect?
Well, you know, we are planning. I mean, we started planning the day we closed as to what we would be doing when we reopened. Libraries are going to look different. I mean, we have, even just when you walk in, you know, once we're able to reopen, you're going to see plexiglass. You are going to see hand sanitizer. Of course, everyone who enters a county facility or is on county property is required to wear a mask. So we will have the mask requirements in place once we are able to reopen. It's likely at the beginning to be very limited in terms of what you are able to do in the buildings. You know, come in and browse the collection, charge your materials out, and then, you know, leave to allow someone else to come back in. We will not, for a while, we probably will not be holding any inside in-person programs. I know my children's librarians are very interested in seeing once the weather's better and we're kind of back in the buildings, what can be done outside. There are some other library systems that are already, of course, open to the public that have some wonderful ideas, but it will not be exactly the same as it was. You know, if you visited the library back in March, the kinds of things that you expect will be in place.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the same for so many things that we all do. Things will be changed and it'll take a little bit of getting used to. And
Right.
so Anita, I just want to thank you. I know that there's so many things the libraries have to offer to the general public, so many things that we all do together. And I know you display our class directory brochures when you're open and all of that, which we know we appreciate because people do find classes throughout the coalition through that. And so we will continue to think about other ways to publicize in addition to what we already do together. But I want to thank you for your time and for all your great work.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy. And, you know, we do see so many people who come in and want to know where they can get help learning English, and that your brochure and your website are great resources for us when we're interacting with people who are new to the area or even very new to the country. You know, often a young person who's have brought over an older family member, the library will be the first stop, and we're able to direct them to the many resources that MCAEL provides. So it's a great partnership. You know, we're in the same business of literacy and making reading and information accessible and fun and in engaging to all of our community members that we serve. So thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. It's fun
love
to be
an
able to do this.
opportunity.
Yeah.
And, okay.
Right.
So
until we meet again then. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.